I'm gonna knock on his door to win his heart. And I recommend you subscribe to the channel and give it a like. She knocked on my door at midnight, the night after my birthday, and whispered, "Don't let me go again." 15 years had passed since Lila Bennett left. Yet her voice still knew the path through my house. I'm 48, a contractor who keeps life simple. Coffee in a metal mug, boots by the mat, a toolbox that never stays shut. I opened the door to rain caught in her hair and a look that mixed apology with nerve. She stepped in like a promise she couldn't delay. I made tea because my hands need work when my head can't. She held the mug the way people hold news. We sat at the oak table I built last winter. "I shouldn't have come," she said and stayed. "When we were young, we drew maps across states. Her father hated those plans. Mine called them reckless. Then work moved me east. Her family moved her anywhere I wasn't, and distance stiffened into years. Now I saw the miles on her face. A tiny scar by her lip, laugh lines carved by weather and endurance. "Why tonight?" I asked. "Because birthdays measure courage," she said. "I saw the photo of your cake. I realized I kept waiting for a perfect time that doesn't exist. The truth came in pieces. A marriage that looked tidy and felt cold. Jobs that paid well and starved everything else. Rooms full of people where she was still alone. I offered my own inventory. A divorce that cleaned the shelves. A brother gone silent. A father who taught swallowing over speaking. I moved back to the street because the map of me pointed here. Lila Bennett traced the rim of her cup. I left because it pleased everyone who wasn't me. She said, "I stayed gone because pride is a comfortable jail. Tonight, I passed your truck and thought, if he opens the door, I'll stop hiding." I remembered the girl in my pickup bed counting lightning. I remembered the letter from the bus station. I never answered because I was 19 and thought silence hurt less than goodbye. "What do you want from me?" I asked. Time, honesty, a chance not to run. We were finally old enough to speak without decoration. I admitted I feared being a consolation prize. She feared being forgiven too easily. Truth sounded plain, and that made it trustworthy. Car rolled by. A dog remembered its duty. Her hand rested close to mine on the table. I didn't grab it. I let the nearness work. "I have a son," she said. "College in the fall. He told me to be brave or be quiet. I'm done with quiet." Her life had grown past my memory of her. Oddly, that made standing with her feel possible. I rinsed our cups, though they were clean. She watched like someone watching tide. Not for answers, just rhythm. She studied my house. A faded team photo, drawings for my niece, a shelf of paperbacks with broken spines. No decorations that lie. "Tomorrow, people will talk," I said. "Let them be loud," she answered. "We'll be clear." We set a small plan. Breakfast at Miller's Diner. A walk by the river. No vows, just presents. At the door, she paused. I was wrong to leave the way I did. "Me too," I said, meaning everything I dodged. She smiled, tired and lighter. "Then we start small." I watched her cross beneath the blinking light. The town recorded another rumor. When the house settled, I sat and felt exactly my age. Not old, not young, but responsible for the next sentence. Elliot Stone, the man who believes Lila Bennett is his unfinished business, would hear by morning. Nathan Reed, my friend with tidy advice, would suggest I don't feed fires. I wouldn't lock the door she opened. I slept in pieces. In one, she was 19, spinning my keys and daring storms. In another, she was the woman in my kitchen, steadying a cup with two hands so it wouldn't shake. Dawn drew a pale line across the blinds. I made coffee, packed a thermos, grabbed the denim jacket she once stole, and I never asked back. On the porch, I paused. New cedar held its clean scent. Across the street, a shadow moved behind her curtain. Felt like a heartbeat syncing with mine. Whatever waited, questions, rivals, apologies late to their appointments. I would meet it with what I still trust. Work, patience, and the rare luck of a second chance. I locked the house out of habit, not fear, and walked toward the diner, jacket over my arm. The day not yet named, but already chosen. The street was quiet in a way that made choices sound louder. My phone buzzed and stopped. I let it. It wasn't fireworks. It was a knock and a whispered dare to tell truth. And I had said yes. Miller's diner smelled like butter and old stories. Lila Bennett slid into the booth by the window, rain drying on her jacket, and I sat opposite with the thermos I'd brought out of habit. The waitress called me Caleb Morgan, and topped off our cups before I could refuse. We didn't touch the menus. Hunger was a background noise. The real meal was what we hadn't said in 15 years. I should start with the ugliest part, she said, fingers around the warm ceramic. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because my parents decided love wasn't part of the plan. She told it plain. Her dad's shop was drowning in debt after a bad winter. A whisper from a family friend became an offer from a clean-cut investor who could set things right. On the condition she said yes to a future that included him and excluded me. The bus station, the letter I didn't answer. The way pride disguised itself as strength. Each piece clicked into place with the dry certainty of tools returning to their slots. I married safety, she said. Paid bills and starved everything else. I wanted to be angry, but anger had nowhere useful to go. Couldn't change 15 years, and it couldn't pay back what it had borrowed from both of us. I should have chased you, I said. I should have written back, I told myself. Silence hurt less than begging. She shook her head, a tired smile fighting its way free. We were young. We were taught to swallow instead of speak. Outside, trucks rolled past the morning building itself. Evelyn Harper, my neighbor, with binoculars for eyes, spotted us through the glass and came in like a friendly flood. Well, look who found the good corner, she sang, settling a hand on the booth. She smelled like lilac and newspapers. Caleb Morgan. Sugar, your pancakes are cold. Lila Bennett. Dear. Welcome back to the side of town that remembers birthdays. She didn't sit, but she didn't leave either. Her gaze hopped between us, bright with the honor of being first to witness a headline. We're keeping it simple, Evelyn Harper. I said, simple is the hardest thing, she replied, softening. Eat while people talk. They always will. She squeezed Lila Bennett's shoulder, a gentler benediction than gossip, and floated away. When the door shut behind her, Lila Bennett exhaled. That's our morning edition covered. My phone buzzed. Nathan Reed, he's been my best friend since the year I learned how to set fence posts and stop pretending I enjoyed office air. I let it ring out, then texted Miller's. Later, he took later as now, and pushed the door open 5 minutes after Evelyn Harper left. Hair still wet from a run, eyes taking inventory. Happy second day of your new year, he said, sliding into the booth beside me like a referee who knew both teams. He looked at Lila Bennett not unkindly. It's been a while. I deserve the while, she answered. I'm trying to deserve this coffee. Nathan Reed folded his hands. I'm the guy who says hard things and still helps you move a couch. So here, I'm glad you're talking. But Caleb Morgan, don't confuse history with destiny. And Lila Bennett, if there's someone else who thinks he gets a vote, name him now. She didn't flinch. Elliot Stone won't like this. He never liked what he didn't write. Nathan Reed nodded as if a puzzle piece he'd suspected had finally appeared. Then expect pressure. Expect him to knock on wrong doors. Decide now how much noise you can stand. He rose, left cash under his untouched cup. I'll be at the shop at noon. Call if the past shows up with flowers. When he was gone, we sat with his words cooling between us. He's protective, she said. He's accurate, I answered. She studied my face like she was measuring what kind of wall I was willing to build against what was coming. I spent years rehearsing a life, she said. It looked good from the sidewalk. Inside, I forgot the sound of my own voice. She reached across the table, palm up, an offering without push. I put my hand in hers. The touch didn't float. It had weight like something set where it belonged. No promises, just steady pressure. We ate finally eggs, toast, slices of orange we didn't ask for. We didn't rush. When we left, the sky had the washed blue of a hard-won morning. We walked by the river where geese argued like old married couples. She spoke in clean lines. The son who told her, be brave or be quiet. The move she's planning. 1 bedroom less, 1 life more honest. I spoke about my work, the houses I rebuild that keep other people's weather out, and the quiet at night that sometimes presses on my chest like a second roof. At the footbridge, she stopped. If we try this and fail, I can own that. If we don't try, I will carry it like a stone. Then we try, I said, the words practical as a level on a sill. Across the water, a black SUV idled too long. The window lowered, then eased up again. I knew the pose of a man taking notes he planned to spend later. We ignored it because there are only so many times you can pay with your attention. Back on our street, Evelyn Harper tended her roses with the focus of a surgeon. She lifted the hose in salute and did not ask a single question. Kindness can be louder than curiosity. On my porch, we paused. I'm not asking you to fix what broke, she said. I'm asking you to stand with me while it mends. I'm good at standing, I said. Better than chasing. She smiled. And the years didn't vanish, but they agreed to share the room. She touched my sleeve. Light, deliberate, the way you touch something you plan to respect, and stepped back. I'll call tonight, she said. Not at midnight. Midnight belongs to beginnings. After she left, Nathan Reed's text arrived. You okay? I wrote, yes, hungry for the right kind of trouble. He replied with a thumb up, and I'll sharpen the tools. I cleaned the kitchen, swept sawdust I swore I'd gotten yesterday, and laid out a board that needed sanding. Work steadies me. Around noon, a crisp knock landed on my door. Not Lila Bennett's, not Nathan Reed's. The kind of knock that asks permission and assumes it. When I opened, a man in a suit stood with a polite smile and eyes that had already chosen sides. Afternoon, he said. I'm looking for Lila Bennett. I didn't answer his question. You're at the wrong house. He absorbed the refusal like a lecture, not a wall. Well, talk soon, he said, as if schedules were rivers he could rear out. When he left, I wrote 2 words on the scrap pinned to my fridge. Be clear. The afternoon stretched honest and long. I sanded, called a client, ate a late sandwich. Lila Bennett texted a photo of the river with 4 words. Still walking, still here. I saved it without thinking. Evening gathered. I brewed coffee I didn't need and watched the street give up its daylight. Somewhere between the first sip and the second, the fear I'd been ignoring came and sat across from me. Not fear of Elliot Stone, not of gossip, but of wasting the second chance knocking like rain. I let it sit. Then I set out 2 cups. The third evening carried a weight I hadn't felt in years. Lila Bennett came by after work, her jacket folded over her arm, hair pulled loose like she was done with appearances. I had stew simmering, not because I wanted to impress her, but because cooking steadies me. She sat at the table where last night we had traded old truths, and she smiled at the smell like it was an anchor. For a few minutes we spoke about ordinary things. The leak in her kitchen sink. My client who paid in quarters because he trusted coins more than checks. But beneath that light talk was a drum beat neither of us could ignore. Elliot Stone, she didn't mention his name first. I did. Your friend in the black SUV came by earlier. I said, asked for you. Her face tightened, then softened as though she had rehearsed this moment for months. He doesn't like to lose, she said. Not in business, not in people. He thinks commitment is possession. I stirred the pot, though it was done buying time. And you? I asked. Do you think I'm a possession? She shook her head steady. I came here because I want to choose, not to be chosen like a trophy. We ate in quiet stretches, the kind where the clink of spoons feels louder than any confession. Halfway through, headlights rolled across my window. Car idled too long. Lila Bennett froze, spoon halfway to her mouth. Then a knock sharp practiced, the kind that assumed walls were temporary. I opened the door to find him. Elliot Stone, broad-shouldered suit pressed like a sermon smile that belonged more in boardrooms than on porches. Evening, he said. His eyes flicked past me to Lila Bennett. Didn't realize this was where you were spending your nights. I didn't step aside. She's a guest, I said. He laughed short, clean, unfriendly. Lila Bennett's always been generous with her time. She stood then, voice calm but firm. Elliot Stone, I'm not your schedule. I'm not your appointment. I'm here because I want to be. His jaw worked once, then reset. This isn't wise, he said. People talk. Business notices. You'll regret letting go of stability for nostalgia. I answered before she could. Stability without love is a cage with fresh paint. He studied me like a contractor studies cracks in a wall, calculating whether the structure will hold or crumble. Then he smiled again, thin and sharp. You'll learn, he said, retreating to his car. The tires whispered threat as they rolled away. Lila Bennett exhaled so long it sounded like years leaving her chest. That night we didn't pretend life was simple. We sat on the porch, jackets against the cooling air. He'll try again, she said. He doesn't stop because stopping means admitting someone else matters. I reached for her hand, not to promise safety, but to show I'd stand in the noise. She gripped back, not lightly, but with intent. The next day, the town already hummed. At the hardware store, two men leaned on the counter, voices low but pointed. Saw Lila Bennett with Caleb Morgan. Wonder how long before that blows up. At the diner, Evelyn Harper raised her brows higher than her hat brim. But instead of gossip, she pressed a piece of pie into my hand and whispered, "Be strong. People love a show, but they respect steady." Nathan Reed showed up at my place with a box of nails and the bluntness of a brother. "He's gonna come at you sideways," he said. "Not fists, reputation, contracts, whispers in the right ears. Be ready." I hammered nails into cedar just to keep my hands busy. "I'm not backing off," I told him. He clapped my shoulder. "Good. But don't mistake stubbornness for courage. Know which is which." That evening, Lila Bennett returned, her eyes carrying both fear and determination. She told me how Elliot Stone had shown up at her work, sliding threats between polite sentences. He said, "I'm embarrassing him," she whispered. He said, "People will assume things." I leaned closer. Let them assume. Let them choke on assumptions. What matters is what we decide. Her hand found mine again, warmer this time with less trembling. "I'm tired of being quiet," she said. "If he shouts, let him. I'm done living in someone else's silence." We sat together until stars cut holes in the dark. The porch light hummed. The stew pot sat cold in the sink, and her presence beside me felt like the first honest thing in a long while. Still, I knew storms were building. Elliot Stone wasn't gone. He was waiting, and the town, with all its gossip, was sharpening its teeth. But as Lila Bennett leaned her head lightly on my shoulder, I thought, storms don't scare me. Silence does, and silence had already been broken. The rain started just after dusk, thin at first, then turning heavy, like the sky had decided to empty itself all at once. Lila Bennett stood at my doorway with her hair damp and her blouse clinging to her shoulders, her eyes bright with something rarer than fear. "He came again," she said. I stepped aside, let her in. She didn't sit. She paced, the sound of her shoes sharp against the wood. Elliot Stone showed up at my office. He told me I'm ruining his reputation. He said, "If I keep this up, he'll make sure everyone knows I can't be trusted." She stopped finally, looked at me as if waiting to see whether I would flinch. I didn't. "He's trying to scare you back into silence." Her shoulders dropped, but only a little. "I've lived in that silence long enough. I won't go back." We sat at the table, the same table where she had first confessed the truth of why she left. The rain tapped the windows, steady, insistent. "Lila Bennett," I said, "what do you want right now? Not tomorrow, not when he's done shouting. What do you want?" She swallowed, eyes glistening. "I want to be free. I want to choose without permission. And I want us. Even if it's messy, even if people talk." Her words hung in the air, simple and heavy as stone. I reached across the table, took her hand. The warmth of her skin felt like the first fire in a cold cabin. For a long time we didn't speak. Then she whispered, "I kept your letters. The ones you sent before you stopped. I read them until the paper wore thin." I looked at her stunned. "You kept them?" She nodded. "They were proof I hadn't imagined at all. Proof that once someone saw me. Not the version my family wanted. Not the version Elliot Stone wanted. Just me." Her eyes shone with tears that didn't fall. I stood, pulled her up with me. "Then see me now," I said. Not the younger me you lost. Not the safer man he wants you to want. Just me. She stepped closer. So close I felt the rain in her hair and the tremor in her breath. And then she kissed me, not desperate, not hurried, but like she was laying down a truth she had carried too long. My arms wrapped around her, and for a moment the years dissolved. The world outside could gossip, could judge, could threaten. Here in the rain room, there was only the weight of her head against my chest, and the certainty that silence had finally broken. When we pulled apart, she laughed softly, almost disbelieving. I thought I'd forgotten how that felt, she said, but I didn't, not once. Later, when the rain slowed, we stepped outside. The street glistened under the lamplight, puddles shimmering like mirrors. She tilted her face to the drizzle, eyes closed, lips parted as though claiming the night. I slipped my jacket over her shoulders. She turned to me, rain streaking her cheeks like silver. I told Elliot Stone tonight that I don't belong to him. I told him I never did. The words cost her something. I could see it in the way her voice cracked, but they also freed her. I cooped her face gently, brushed a wet strand of hair from her cheek. Then he can shout all he wants. It won't change what's true. We stood there under the rain, the hum of the street lights around us, the whole town shrinking to the two of us. She leaned into me again, not to hide, but to stand stronger. When she finally left for the night, her steps were lighter than when she arrived. I watched her walk down the street, her figure framed by the lamplight, and I felt something I hadn't in years. The certainty that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Inside, I knew Elliot Stone wasn't done. Men like him never are. But Lila Bennett had chosen, and I had too. Whatever storm was coming, it would find us together. And that truth was stronger than fear. The night of the town fundraiser was when everything came to a head. Miller's Hall was strung with white lights, the kind that make even peeling paint look festive. People wore their best, which in our town meant pressed shirts, clean boots, dresses pulled from closets with tags still clinging. I hadn't planned on going, but Lila Bennett asked. If we're going to do this, she said, we do it in the open. We walked in together, her hand brushing mine, not hidden, not timid. The room quieted just enough for whispers to spread like wind through dry grass. Evelyn Harper's eyebrows shot up to the ceiling, but she only raised her glass in a toast no one else noticed. Halfway through the evening, Elliot Stone arrived. He didn't need to make an entrance. His presence carried its own announcement. The suit, the gold cufflinks, the smile that promised generosity and concealed barbs. He greeted people with the ease of someone who believed the room belonged to him. Then his eyes found us. He crossed the hall, every step deliberate. Lila Bennett, he said smoothly, you look radiant. His gaze shifted to me, sharper now. And Caleb Morgan, you look resolved. Lila Bennett stood straighter. Elliot Stone, I told you we're done. The air tightened. People nearby leaned in, pretending not to eavesdrop, but hanging on every word. Elliot Stone's voice rose just enough to carry. You're making a mistake. Trading stability for sentiment. Trading the future for nostalgia. I stepped forward. My hands didn't shake. No, she's trading a cage for freedom. And I'm not letting her stand alone while you shame her for it. A hush rippled through the hall. Even the band paused mid-ong. For a moment, it felt like the whole town was waiting to see if I'd fold. Elliot Stone laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think you can protect her from me? From what people will say. I don't care what people say, I answered. I lost her once because I stayed silent. I won't lose her again. Lila Bennett's hand slipped into mine, then firm, steady. Her voice was clear. Elliot Stone, you don't own me. You never did. I choose Caleb Morgan. I choose love. If that costs me gossip, if it costs me your approval, I'll pay it gladly. Her words landed harder than anything I could have said. For the first time, Elliot Stone's composure cracked. His jaw tightened, his eyes flashed, and then he turned on his heel, leaving without another word. The door shut behind him and the hall exhaled. Applause broke out, not loud, not wild, but steady, respectful. Evelyn Harper dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Nathan Reed clapped me on the back, muttering, "About time." Lila Bennett and I stood there hand in hand, the lights above us warm, the music tentatively starting again. I looked at her and saw not the girl I once loved, not the years we lost, but the woman who chose to come back, who chose honesty over comfort. Later that night, when we walked home under the stars, the streets quiet, I felt the weight of the evening lift. Lila Bennett squeezed my hand. "Do you regret it?" Saying it out loud like that. "Not a word," I said. "Silence cost me too much. This time I'll fight for what's real." She smiled, tired but free. "Then we've already won." We reached my porch. The rain from the night before had dried, leaving the air crisp, the woods smelling fresh. She leaned against me, head on my shoulder, and for the first time in years, I felt not just hope, but peace. The storm wasn't gone. People would still talk. Elliot Stone might still scheme. But we had spoken our truth where everyone could hear, and neither of us had backed down. That mattered more than whatever tomorrow brought. As we stood there, I thought, second chances aren't gifts. They're battles you choose to fight together. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready for the fight because I wasn't fighting alone.